Hello and welcome to Veggie Voyages. I am your host, Chef Jared, and Veggie Voyages is a celebration of international vegan food where I'll be offering up some of my interpretations on plant-based dishes from around the world. And we have an exciting stop for you today. We're going to be doing some Moroccan food. This is spicy, bold, vibrant food with a lot of great spices and other things going on. We're going to be doing a chickpea stew and a nice Moroccan couscous salad. Cannot wait to get started. Hello, and to get started today, the first thing we're going to do for our Moroccan feast is start on our chickpea stew. Now this is a stew that is loosely based on tagine, which is a traditional Moroccan dish, oftentimes using lamb, but it's just as tasty with chickpeas. This is a really rich, hearty stew. It's tomato-based broth, a lot of great spices in there. I think you're really gonna like this one. So, to start off our stew, we have some chickpeas here that we just went ahead and drained, and I got a little bit of vegetable oil hot in a pot right here. We start to cook off those chickpeas, give it a little bit of a sizzle, and then we're gonna go in with some diced onion, as well as a little bit of minced garlic and minced ginger. And we want to put the onion or the ginger and the garlic in there nice and early so that the ginger and the garlic can start to perfume that oil with all of their flavors and all of their aromas. Stir it around in there. And what we're looking for is just to get a little bit of color on these onions. They're gonna go from translucent to getting a little bit of brown on them. And then once we have those onions, the color we want them, we're gonna start adding some spices, we're gonna start adding some tomatoes, and really start building layers of flavor into this stew. But for now, we're gonna hit them generously with some kosher salt and some black pepper. I love a good coarse kosher salt. It's really tactile. You can feel the grains of salt in your hand. I really love this brand of kosher salt. Supreme Tradition has a really great feel, really great texture to it. One of my absolute favorite pieces or kinds of salt to cook with. So there we go with that. And then while our stew is cooking, we are going to start roasting a little bit of sweet potato for our stew as well. So the sweet potato is going to be a little bit of a topper. That's going to go right on top of the stew at the end. It's going to get a little bit of a harissa and pomegranate molasses glaze, which is going to be really, really fun. So for now, what we're going to do is get these sweet potatoes in a bowl. I just did sort of a medium cube on those sweet potatoes. So they'll be good kind of bite-sized bits to go on top of your stew. A little bit more vegetable oil, some more kosher salt and black pepper. I'm gonna hit these with a little bit of paprika as well and just give it a toss. And if you've watched any other episodes of Veggie Voyages, you know that I am a firm believer in preheating your pan that you're gonna roast your potatoes on. So I have my pan nice and hot here, and this is gonna help the potatoes cook a little bit quicker, and it's gonna help get a better crust on the outside there. So my pan, nice and hot. We're gonna go into a 425 degree oven. Those potatoes are gonna take about 15 to 20 minutes to roast. We want a nice caramelized crust on the outside of those. And in this pot here, our chickpeas, our onions, our ginger, and our garlic, it's gonna take about 10 or 15 minutes. I have it on about a medium heat. We're slowly gonna caramelize those onions, get some color, start to develop those flavors. So while we're waiting for all of that cooking to happen, we're gonna take a quick break, and we'll be right back to start working on our couscous salad. Welcome back. So while our Moroccan chickpea stew is cooking away, these chickpeas, the onions, the garlic, they're slowly getting some color and some flavor on them. While all that is happening, we're gonna go ahead and start working on our Moroccan couscous salad. So for this Moroccan couscous salad, we'll be using Moroccan couscous. So you can see this couscous, it's very fine. It's sort of grainy, looking, and that's traditional couscous that's used in Morocco and other parts of Northern Africa. Now this is different from Israeli couscous, which you'll see a lot of the time is a little bit bigger, it's much rounder. Sometimes Israeli couscous is known as a pearl couscous. And they're similar, but they cook a lot differently. They have different flavors used in different preparations. Israeli couscous takes a bit longer to cook because it is a little bit bigger, a little bit thicker, but the Moroccan couscous cooks nice and quick and easy. You don't even have to get it onto the stove. So, to cook your Moroccan couscous, all you do is you get it out into a bowl. And this is half a cup of Moroccan couscous that I have right here. I'm gonna season it a little bit, some kosher salt and some pepper. Kind of mix that around a little bit. And then you'll have your liquid hot in another pan. And it's a 1 to 1.5 times ratio of couscous to liquid. So this is half a cup of couscous. This is gonna be 3/4 cup of vegetable stock. You can use water to cook this if you'd like, but I like to use a little bit of vegetable stock just to impart a bit more flavor into that couscous. And all we're gonna do is we're gonna pour this hot stock over the couscous. I'm gonna give this a little drizzle of olive oil, just like that. And then you just want something to cover that bowl. So I'm just use a plate here. You can use plastic wrap if you'd like, or another bowl, anything that fits over there. And what we're trying to do is trap the steam inside this bowl. The steam is going to cook the couscous. It's gonna soak up that liquid, it's gonna plump up a little bit, and when we take this plate off in about 10 minutes, the couscous is gonna be fully cooked, and then from there, all you have to do is add some more seasonings, fluff it up with a fork. It could not be easier to cook Moroccan couscous, and it's a great way to start a meal. So, while our couscous is steaming away, our chickpeas and onions are almost done, we'll be right back to start building some more layers of flavor into this stew. Hello and welcome back. So our couscous for our salad is slowly steaming away there, plumping up. And on our pot here, our onions and garlic and ginger and chickpeas are just about ready to get some new friends in there. You can see the onions have started to brown up a little bit, smelling nice and fragrant in here. So I'm gonna do a little bit more oil into this pan so that we have some fat to toast the next ingredients that we're gonna add. So next thing we're gonna do is some tomato paste. So this is a tomato-based stew. So whenever I'm doing a tomato-based dish like this, I always like to use a little bit of tomato paste because it's got a lot of great sugars in it. It's got a lot of really nice concentrated tomato flavor. And it's really just gonna make your dish just taste a little bit more tomatoey. And that's always good. And that applies whether it's a dish like this, whether I'm making barbecue sauce, marinara sauce. Tomato paste is always your friend. And we want to get it in the oil for about 30 seconds or so to start toasting off the sugars that live in that tomato paste. Next up, we have our spices. Now this is a very important part of Moroccan cuisine. Morocco was for a long time and is still presently one of the capitals of the spice trade. So they export spices all over the world, all kinds of spices, and they've been doing it for hundreds and hundreds of years. So their cuisine has become very focused on highlighting the beauty of those spices. So to honor that, we're gonna be adding lots of spices into this here stew. What I have here is some smoked paprika. I have ground cardamom, ground clove, ground coriander, and ground cumin with a little bit of red pepper flake. Now, if you don't have all of these spices, not all of them are 100% necessary, but each one adds its own little characteristic. And you'll notice a lot of these spices, things like clove, things like cardamom, we're also going to add a couple of cinnamon sticks, are things that we would traditionally associate with desserts and baking. But in lots of other cuisines, these spices are used in savory cooking because of these deep, woodsy, oaky, nutty notes that they add. It's a really great way to add another element to your cooking. What we want to do is get these spices in here and gently toast them in that oil. The cinnamon sticks, all of those ground spices, and toasting them is going to bring out a little bit more flavor. These spices have a lot of very aromatic oils in them. And just doing a quick toast here before you add any liquid into the stew. Just a really simple but a very effective way to add a lot of flavor into your stew. And all these little tips and tricks add up to make your food a lot more delicious at the end of the day. And I have a book here. This is called Conquer the Kitchen. This is a book that I wrote. It's a blank recipe book, but it has about 30 pages worth of tips and tricks, things like toasting your spices off a little bit to add more flavor. And then once you absorb all of those tips and tricks, it has all of these blank pages in it that you can use to write down some of your favorite recipes. So it's a really great way to start building a recipe book for yourself. It's available on Amazon for less than $9. So back to our stew. Our spices are nice and toasted. We're gonna do a little bit of red wine vinegar in here to kind of pick up some of those toasted spices off the bottom of the pan. And it's also gonna add a little bit of acidity to this stew. So you can see these bits being picked up. And then we're gonna add, I forgot one spice here, we're gonna do a little bit of turmeric as well. Gonna add some nice color to it. A little bit of turmeric. We're gonna give that a second to toast as well. And then since this is a tomato-based stew, we are about to go in with our tomatoes. So this is fire roasted crushed tomatoes. Whenever I'm doing a dish like this, I like to try and find fire roasted tomatoes because I just love that charred roasted flavor. So that was 1 can of fire roasted tomatoes there. I'm gonna get that in there. And then we're gonna go in with a quart of vegetable stock. So go in with the stock, give it a good stir. We have a fresh bay leaf that we're gonna add in here as well. And then finally, we have some chopped Kalamata olives. This is gonna add like a nice kind of briny, salty element to it. It's gonna contrast really well with those spices, with the sweetness of the tomato. And all you do now is you're gonna bring this soup up to a boil. Once it's boiling, we'll take it down to a simmer. We'll let it simmer for, I'd say at least half an hour. If you put more liquid in there, you can let it go for a couple of hours. Generally, the longer it cooks, the tastier it's gonna be. And also, it's great the next day. So if you make this stew, you let it sit overnight. Overnight, those flavors are gonna sit and get to know each other a little bit better. So this is a great make-ahead meal. But while we're waiting for this stew to come up to a simmer, we're gonna take a quick break and we'll be right back. Hello and welcome back. So while our stew is still simmering away, we're going to finish this Moroccan couscous salad. The stew has such incredible aroma, all those spices in there. It's really filling up the studio here. Wish you could be here with us. So you take off the plate after about 10 minutes and you can see that the bowl of couscous is totally cooked now. It looks a lot more moist than it did before. Our couscous plumped up a little bit. And all we're gonna do is take and just fluff this couscous with a fork, just like you would rice. See how nice and fluffy that is. See, it could not be easier to make Moroccan couscous. And now that our couscous is cooked, we're gonna add just a couple of simple ingredients to make this into a really nice, bright, colorful, refreshing, healthy salad. So I have some dried golden raisins here that we're gonna throw in here. Add just like a nice little sweetness to it. Really, really nice. Use purple raisins if you'd like. You could use some cranberries, apricots, whatever kind of dried fruit you prefer. And then I have some minced red bell pepper and red onion. So these are gonna add a nice little crunch to this salad. That couscous is kind of soft and tender. So having these nice crunchy vegetables in here will be a good contrast. We have some fresh herbs. So we're gonna do a little bit of fresh parsley or some green. And also just a nice crunch of parsley, nice fresh herb flavor. And then we're gonna do a little bit of cucumber as our final vegetable. So to mince this cucumber, when I'm mincing a cucumber, or dicing a cucumber for that matter, I like to just round off the edges just a touch. So you can see, normally the cucumber kind of rolls around on you, but if you cut off a little bit of a flat edge, now your cucumber sits nice and flat. You can make nice planks out of it Use the same trick for potatoes, for carrots, anything that's sort of oblong. You just cut yourself a little bit of a flat edge. It's gonna make dicing it a whole lot easier. And once you get your planks, you can go ahead and take them into long strips. And then from there, it's really simple to just go ahead, get a nice even dice on your cucumbers. Beautiful. And they're gonna go right into the salad here. Look how colorful the salad is. You can also do some dried nuts in here if you'd like. I'm gonna omit the nuts here because we're gonna have some toasted almonds topping our stew. And then along with the parsley, do a little bit of fresh mint in here. Another great fresh herb. So when I'm doing things like mint, this also works well for basil. I'd like to do what's called a chiffonade cut, or ribbons. Chiffonade is just a fancy French word for ribbons. But can't hold my French culinary school against me. So you take and you roll up your mint into little cigars. And then it's really easy to just take and you cut those cigars into nice strips. So you get nice big pieces of mint into your salad. And mint is kind of a delicate herb, so this is a good way to cut it because you just have to go through and do this cut once. It's not like parsley, it's not like something like rosemary or thyme where you would want to go over your mint a bunch of times. Because if you cut your mint with your knife too much, it's going to start to bruise, it's going to start to turn brown and black. We don't want that. So that cut is just a nice, gentle way to treat your mint. And then finally, we're going to hit this with a little bit of lemon juice and olive oil to finish off our salad. So we're going to get the zest off of our lemon. Microplane right here. We're just taking the yellow part off of the outside of the lemon. It's got a lot of great flavors in there, all those essential lemon oils. And when you're zesting citrus like this, you just want to get the colorful part off. You don't want to go too far into the pith. It should be nice and white on the outside. When you start to get here, it's just like a little bit too white, and that's where it starts to get bitter. So you don't want to do that. And we're going to roll this lemon. Rolling is going to help get a little bit more juice out of it. And give it a nice squeeze into here. And we'll do the other half. This is going to be a really bright, refreshing salad. This is a great meal prep item. You can also make this a little bit more hearty if you want to put maybe some roasted chickpeas or some roasted tofu over it, add a protein. This is going to be a side for Moroccan couscous today, but this dish is really easy to make into a very hearty, satisfying, super healthy main as well. And then a little drizzle of olive oil. And we'll just mix this around. There we go. That is all you have to it. Make sure you get those pieces of lemon zest nice and incorporated. We'll give this a little bit of a taste. It's really nice. It's really bright. It's really refreshing. Get a lot of different textures in there, and the couscous and the raisins and those fresh veggies. I'm gonna add just another pinch of salt, just because it needs just a little bit more rounding out. But that is all there is to it. So this is our Moroccan couscous salad. We'll be right back to finish up our roasted sweet potatoes and put together this stew. Welcome back. So our salad is done. Our chickpea stew is just about ready. And while it simmers away for just another couple minutes, we're gonna finish up our roasted sweet potatoes. So you can see here, these sweet potatoes have some beautiful color on them. Nice and brown on the outside. And we're gonna do a little bit of a harissa glaze to go over top these sweet potatoes. So this is harissa paste here. This is a spice paste that is very traditional in Moroccan and other North African cuisines. It's made from dried chili peppers, warming spices like cumin and coriander, usually some garlic, some citrus, sometimes some tomato. So that's what we have here. It's got a nice spice to it. And then to that, we're adding some pomegranate molasses and a splash of red wine vinegar. And these three things are gonna make a glaze for our sweet potatoes. So you just whisk that up. And then we're gonna go over here, toss these onto our sweet potatoes. And the sweet potatoes are gonna go back in the oven for another minute or two to kind of get that glaze caramelized on the outside of them there. This is a dish that we have at the restaurant where I work in Cleveland, Cloak and Dagger Cocktail Lounge, our Moroccan chickpea stew, and is one of the best sellers on the menu. It is really great for those cold Cleveland nights. So the potatoes are gonna go back into the oven for just a minute or two. And then while those potatoes glaze up, we're gonna go ahead and start to get our stew into a bowl. Once those potatoes are ready, they'll go right over top of the stew. So to finish the stew here, remember we put a cinnamon stick and a bay leaf in here. So we're gonna go ahead and fish those out. They've done their job. Lots of nice cinnamon and bay leaf flavor into the broth of the stew there. Give this stew another quick little taste. And that's really, really nice. All those spices come through. Just do a little bit more salt on there. All right, so our stew is gonna go into the bowl while we wait for our potatoes to cook. Just a couple nice ladlefuls here. And for this stew here, I would be remiss if I did not give a shout out to an old chef of mine, Chef Carl Steib from International Cuisine, who sadly passed away a couple years ago due to cancer. But he served in the Navy and he got to travel all around the world. And he loved this kind of food. He was the first one who introduced me to this sort of North African cuisine. He was very, very passionate about it. So at the top of the show, when I talk about how this show is inspired by the chefs I got to learn from and work with, Chef Carl Steib is certainly a giant figure in that inspiration. So thank you for bringing this kind of food to me. And while we wait for those potatoes to finish roasting, we'll be back in just a minute and we're going to wrap up our amazing Moroccan meal here. Welcome back. So you can see our sweet potatoes have taken on this harissa glaze nicely. Some beautiful color on those. And our soup is done. We're just gonna add a couple garnishes here to finish up this soup. So right here, we have some preserved lemon. This is a traditional North African ingredient. And it was an old way to preserve citrus fruits during those hot North African summers. And what you do is you take these lemons and you pack them in their own juices with a bunch of salt, and you let them sit and ferment in a dark cellar for a couple months, and it preserves them, and it gives the rind of this lemon this wonderful, salty, citrusy, umami flavor to it. It's like lemon zest on steroids. What you do, you can see that I rinsed off the outside because there's still a bit of a salty brine on the outside of these lemons. So you want to get that salty brine off so it's not too salty, and you only use the rind of this preserved lemon. You can squeeze them, use the juice if you'd like for some other preparations, but typically it's just the lemon rind that you use. And once we get that flesh off of the inside, we're just going to go ahead and take and cut some strips out of this preserved lemon rind. This is something you can do at home, but you can also buy jars of preserved lemon, some international markets. It's a great, really intense, complex lemon flavor this is going to add to this stew. And then we're going to do some diced apricots. Nice little sweetness, some fruity flavor, nice little kind of chew to the apricots. We have some toasted almonds, totally optional, but I love the toasty, roasty flavor they add to them. And again, a little bit of crunch. And finally, some fresh cilantro. It's gonna finish off this stew. So look how beautiful that looks. You have so many good little bits to bite into in this stew. Really warm, comforting, satisfying. So there you have it, along with our Moroccan salad. We have our Moroccan chickpea stew and our Moroccan couscous salad. Enjoy. All right, well, thank you for joining us today on our veggie voyage to Morocco. We're just gonna finish up this soup by adding our roasted harissa glazed sweet potatoes to our stew here. Sit right on top very nicely. and it looks beautiful next to our Moroccan couscous salad. Again, thank you so much for joining us on this veggie voyage. I hope you enjoyed watching me make these recipes. Hope you learned a little bit of something. I'm Chef Jared. Be sure to tune in next time as we take a trip to Korea. We're gonna be doing some spicy bulgogi shiitake mushrooms. See you then.